This is Rabbi Eliezer Zwickler, Rabbi of Congregation AABJ&D in West Orange, New Jersey, and it is an honor for me to share with you a bit of Torah for this week's Parsha, Parshat Beha'alotcha. Our Parsha begins with Hashem, God, commanding Aaron HaKohen, Aaron the high priest, to light the menorah in the Mishkan, in the tabernacle. And this was to be his task every day. And not only that, but his descendants would eventually light the menorah in the Beis HaMikdash, in the Holy Temple as well. And so the Torah records, after Aaron is instructed to light the menorah, the Torah says, Vayaskein Aaron. Aaron does as he was told to do. And Rashi wonders and says, why does the Torah have to tell us that? Of course he did what he was told to do. So Rashi explains and says, no, lehagid shabacho, to speak in praise of Aaron, to tell the world that Aaron did as he was commanded. Well, why would we think that he wouldn't do as he was commanded? So perhaps the answer to that is really a lesson for all of us. We would think that Aaron was a man who was on such a high stature, was in such a high place. He was the high priest. That perhaps Aaron would have thought that he had an idea of how to light the menorah differently or better or more efficiently than the way in which he was commanded. And so I think there's a personal lesson for us, and I'd like to share with you something that happened to me this week that I think really brings this to light. On Memorial Day, I decided to take this big box that I had in my living room, which was a bookcase to be constructed, and finally put it together. And so I asked one of my sons, I said, let's build a bookcase. And I said, do you mind getting my drill, getting my screwdriver, and the hammer? And so he went and got all three, and we started unpacking the box. We put all the pieces out, and then we read the directions. The first thing it says is, do not use drill. Now, I told him, go ahead and put the drill back. And then we start building the bookcase, but it's very difficult to screw in with a screwdriver each of the screws in building the bookcase. So at one point I say to my son, you know what, get me my drill. And I reasoned, and I said, look, they don't want you using the drill because they're worried about ruining the finishing on the bookcase, but I could make sure that I could use the drill in such a fashion that I won't ruin the finishing, and it'll all work out, but I can't keep on doing this with the screwdriver. And so he brings the drill, and we continue. We eventually finish building the bookcase, and then we pick up the bookcase and look at the finished product, and lo and behold, there is a little gap between the molding and the bottom of the bookcase. And so there's no way to undo it now because the molding was already put on. And what I realize, of course, is that I should have listened and never used the drill in the first place. But there are some times where we think that maybe we're just a little bit smarter. That even those who created the bookcase in the first place and all of its components, when they told me, don't use a drill, I thought that I would be able to use a drill. So Aaron may have had an easier way in which he could have lit that menorah, but God told him, light it this way, and Aaron didn't say, oh, you know what, God, maybe I could do it this. Aaron did it exactly how he was told, because Aaron was a humble person who believed that others, and certainly God, knew better than he did. And so perhaps a lesson for us in our lives is that whenever it comes to something that we do or we're asked to do by someone else, even if we may think that we know how to do it better, whether it is a spouse or another family member, or whether it is an employer, or whether it is a friend, our task is to follow the directions, to show humility, so that we can do and perform successfully in everything that we attempt to do in life. And in doing so, may we light the flame within us, so all that we have inside and our energy can burn not only for our own light, but for the light of others as well. Thank you for listening, and Shabbat Shalom.